Joe Rogan has been controversial since Spotify signed him.
True.
There's nothing new under the sun. People have disliked this decision from the beginning, and Spotify has made a smart business move by bringing Joe over. I've already argued this on the podcast that Joe could have made a lot more money not on Spotify, but he may not want to deal with it. He doesn't want to deal with ad sales and all this other stuff. So for those of you who don't know, if you happen to not know, Neil Young and a couple of other artists, Joni Mitchell,
yeah.
Niles Lofgren, the guitarist for Bruce Springsteen.
Okay,
and I think a musician in his own right. What he's done, I don't know. He's mainly to me, he's the guitarist for Bruce Springsteen. They decide to pull. They are so upset at some of what they are describing as misinformation.
Yeah.
That they
about COVID
that they gave Spotify an ultimatum. They said, hey, listen, if you don't, it's either Rogan or it's me, is what Neil said. Neil was the first one.
Yes.
It's Rogan or me. You can't have both. And so if you don't pull Rogan off the air, I'm going to pull my catalog out.
Yeah,
right?
and then he did.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think we can have a lively debate here without ruffling a lot of feathers, right? Because we're not a political commentating podcast, and I think that's probably why we're up on the charts. Because if we were doing
don't talk anything meaningful.
No, we don't. Yeah, and I think people. I don't know.
That's the reason for the name, the
commercial break. That's right.
Yeah,
and quite frankly, it makes me feel good to spend 2 or 3 hours a week not having to think about any of that stuff or be
me too.
The deluge that comes from turning on any television news station or radio station or anything like that. But I feel because this is in our arena, because we are now podcast experts on the top of the charts, just blazing across the podcast universe as a bright star. Yes. And because we will soon get a similar contract from Spotify, I figured it was important to know the ground rules.
Yes.
Don't you feel?
I agree.
So Neil says, it's you or it's me. He pulls his music because obviously it's not Neil. Neil's not even the most, Mike Pesca, who has The Gist, the podcast, The Gist, great podcast. Go check it out. Very centrist, non-extremist, listens to all sides of a point of view before making a decision.
Like
yeah. Mike's a good guy. I know him personally. He pointed out that Neil Young is not even the most popular Neil on Spotify, right? I mean, there's Neil Diamond, and he's not, nor is he the most popular Young on Spotify, Young MC and all these other guys. So he doesn't have the kind of weight to demand that Spotify pull Joe Rogan. Like if it's a business decision, it's Joe Rogan all day long.
Yeah.
And by the way, Neil has all the right in the world to take his music wherever he wants
a stand.
Sure. But
I applaud that.
I do.
Mean, yeah.
Listen, you can speak with your feet or speak with your pocketbook or speak with your farts like Bryan does. You can sell them wherever you want to.
Yeah.
I, like, friend to friend, and we haven't spoken a lot about this, but friend to friend, I feel like Joe is an entertainer. He's not a medical scientist. He's not a doctor. We shouldn't be taking our COVID advice from Joe Rogan. That'd be like taking our I don't know. That'd be like getting
advice from our podcast
advice from Carrot Top or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, you shouldn't do that because that's not who Joe is. And Joe will tell you he's an idiot. He doesn't know anything. Please don't listen to me right off the bat. I don't agree with some of the things that are being talked about on his show. And for a long time, I haven't. But I still believe that there needs to be a place for this kind of discourse, that if we shut down alternative ideas, then we put ourselves in a dangerous position of having someone with an opinion always censor somebody else who has another opinion.
That's true. Yeah.
And so I feel like it's a dangerous place for us to go. Now, Neil has the right to do whatever he wants to do. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Neil doesn't have the right to speak. Of course he does. That's good and good for you. And to some degree, I may agree with the sentiment. But what I'm getting nervous about with the quote unquote cancel culture is that it always it's a full circle. It's going to come back and bite everybody in the ass.
Yeah.
Because if we're allowing 1 or 2 or 7 loud voices to determine what happens and how we form our discourse, then we're going to start being a country that is really afraid to talk about anything for any reason.
That's true. I agree.
And I like the thought, I stand by the thought that an idea that's too dangerous to talk about is dangerous in and of itself. Like just because you don't agree with someone's ideas doesn't mean that they should never be able to make $1 again, or they should never be able to speak in public again, or they shouldn't be able to, be on this platform or be on that platform.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spectrum, in my opinion.
I agree.
There's some people that are just so extreme and saying things that are blatantly false that other people are listening to and taking it as the truth.
Yeah.
So that's dangerous too. But yes, I agree with what you're saying, that there shouldn't be so much censorship about anything, where you're nervous to talk about anything.
I feel like we've all gotten so sensitive to our own viewpoints, and we're all so encased in our opinions that it's like, what's happening? Are you literally getting hurt by somebody else's opinion? Are you literally getting that upset that your world's imploding because someone else had a different opinion? I don't know what these doctors said on Joe Rogan Experience. I have no idea, and I'm not defending it, but it's just someone else's opinion, and they are medical doctors, so they're just sharing their opinion, and Joe is allowing that to happen on his show. What makes me concerned is that,
Well, I think he put out something today too that said what he would like to do is have more, different opinions from one expert feeling one way, another expert feels another way.
Good for Joe.
And having more of a varied, balanced sides.
Like a well-rounded conversation rather than always having these, doctors. And Joe, in his statement today, points out that 8 months ago, if you told somebody that a cloth mask was dangerous to your health, it's possible that you could have gotten blocked on social media. But today it's accepted that cloth masks don't work, right? If you would have said 8 months ago, you can take the vaccine, but it may not prevent you from getting COVID. It's just going to prevent you from getting really sick from COVID. That was not an idea that was accepted, that you were considered anti-vax, but things evolve. Like, conversations happen. Scientific communities evolve their opinions based on research. And so and the reason why that happens is because there's discourse that goes on inside of those communities. They agree, they disagree, they debate, they go back and forth, they look at the numbers, they say it.
Yeah, and new things are coming out every day about how this works.
And so I don't want to be a bummer, because I know this show is usually like goofy and ridiculous, quite frankly, and no one's coming to me for their opinion. But I just thought because it's in our space, I just wanted to share a little bit my personal thoughts on this, because everybody's been waiting for my personal thoughts on this.
Bated breath.
Everyone's going to wonder what Brian's going to say about the Rogan controversy. I say that Neil has a right to do whatever he wants to do, and Joe Rogan is encouraging discourse and debate about differing ideas, and that, while I may not agree with all of it, I don't want to see Joe get fired over it. No, I think it's kind of ridiculous. And Joe said, listen, I don't have any problem with a content advisory. Like, we may share ideas that are not the mainstream medical belief. I don't have any, and I think he's doing the right thing by being contrite and saying, hey, listen, I'm willing to make sure that all ideas get out there and that they're all represented well. And I'm okay with putting a content advisory so people understand this may not be accepted medical practice, which I think makes sense inside of a pandemic. Now, I'm not talking, and I think that we can get into these like fine lines of everything. But then, like, if you're calling for some person because of their race, color, creed, skin, who they love to be murdered, that's like, that's a different animal altogether, right? But that's not what's going on here. That's not what Joe is doing. So I think Joe did the right thing by putting out a statement. Spotify says they have some longstanding policy that just magically appeared yesterday about the content advisory for COVID-19. I'll be interested to see if they put a content advisory on this episode, because we've been talking about this. And just to let you know, Krissy and I are also pulling our full catalog off of Spotify. It's either us or it's Joe, Spotify. You make the call. You have a hard decision in front of you. I can just see the board of directors listening to our episodes. Well, it's either Rogan with his 11 million listeners an episode, or it's Black Market Farts. Call Brian. Let him know he's on. We've made our decision. We've picked our pony and we're going to ride it.
Thank you, Spotify.
We're going for the DD Cantor all the way.
DD Cantor.
Live from your shitty little studio in north of Atlanta. Your 42 listeners on Spotify have spoken loudly. Got you covered. I was talking to a friend about this over the weekend, and I was like, "What if we'll pull our catalog from like Google or something, and we'll put out a press release about it and see if we get any traction."
Should.
Yeah. And I also wanted to. I thought it was. No, never mind. I thought it was interesting, and I thought I would point out that Neil, who I'm a huge fan of, by the way, love his music, huge fan of Neil Young's music, has not always had the most mainstream of ideas either. So I mean, it's they're cut from the same cloth with a different stitch, if you know what I'm saying. So I just thought I'd share that.
Thank you.
So we'll figure out later if I cut that part out of the